How should you build Super EZA Goku Black's hidden potential? How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We're back for another Dokkan battle video. In today's video, we are taking a look at the Super EZA Fizz Goku Black and his potential in the hidden potential system. After all, many of you guys have probably had this guy for a while and you may be considering changing him. Or you're someone who just picked him up with the Redstone during Golden Week, or just picked him up with a few red coins and you are considering how to build this guy. So let's go ahead, let's figure that out by taking a look at what he's doing, because honestly, despite the type of unit he is, his hidden potential is a bit different than you would expect. So let's take a look at his super attack effect. Super attack effect is greatly lowering attack and defense. He does not raise his attack or defense on super attack, and that of course is because he is a nuking style unit. He already gets massive attack and defenses per key sphere obtained. Speaking of which, we can see here in his passive that he does get 50% per key sphere obtained. He also gets an additional 150% defense when attacking with 3 or more key spheres obtained. He also randomly changes key spheres of a certain type to rainbow key spheres, and gets an additional 10% when there is a Goku's family enemy or when all allies are super bosses. He gets key 1 up to 5 and attack and defense 30% up to 150% with each attack received. He has a chance of performing a critical hit 20% every time he receives 3 attacks in battle. He also changes key spheres of a certain type to Fizz when you're facing a super class enemy. He also gives an extreme class allies key 3 and defense 30%. So he is a nuking support unit. It's an odd combination, not one we haven't necessarily seen before, but nonetheless, it is a bit strange. But it does make him for a wonderful support unit. In fact, that is his main role, supporting defense. You know, he'll get enough defense through fully built up with a minimum of 6 key spheres. He's getting over 1.3 million defense, which means he will tank just about every normal in the game and most supers, right? Some of those bigger supers are going to damage him, but obviously, you know, if you get more key spheres, then that's less and less of an issue for him. Now, here's the thing with him, right? He does not have a super attack effect. He is not raising attack and defense for himself. So you would think he doesn't gain anything out of getting additionals, since there's nothing there. So that typically with a unit like this, you would want to go critical hit, since they're not gaining anything by doing an additional super attack, unless of course you're fighting a boss that can be debuffed. For example, him doing an additional super against a boss like Kid Buu or Gogeta, who can have their attack and defense lowered, that's kind of crazy, right? Greatly lowering essentially drops them by 60% if you get a double super. That's huge. It makes it impossible for a character like Kid Buu to catch up in their own attack raises that they do as you fight on. Now, with that said, still most people with that would go critical hit, especially knowing that he is a nuking style unit. The general rule for nuking style units is in fact critical hit. However, when we scroll down to his passive here, we see that he gets critical hit 20% every time he receives 3 attacks. So basically, every 3 attacks, he gets 20% crit. So 6 attacks, he'll have 40%. 9 attacks, he'll have 60, 12 attacks, 90, 80% rather, and then by 15 attacks, he will be fully built up, which seems like a lot, right? But consider, like, in a fight like Fusion Zamos, for example, he can get, you know, he can easily knock out 7 attacks in slot 1 alone, which would easily build him up, not only his attack and defense that he's getting with each attack received, right, but build up that critical hit, meaning at a certain point you become more likely to crit than anything else. So he doesn't need critical hit in his passive. So when we look at the hidden potential system here, right, for Fizz type units, we scroll on down here, right, Fizz type units have built-in combo attack, right? Additional attacks. Meaning if you had this guy 79% or greater and you invested all of your potential into a combo attack, he would already have a 40% chance to do an additional. That's not including any skill orb investment, right? You add another 10 through skill orb investments, you now have a 60% chance to do an additional, right? That is going to help him far more than giving him critical hit to make up for those early stages, right? Those early stages, you're going to be beyond that critical hit far quicker than you can. And even by giving him critical hit, the max you're going to get out of it is, 30%. So realistically, the 60% you could take here is probably better for him. So honestly, knowing that, right, knowing that he needs to get hit to build that critical hit as well as his attack and defense, and that he does kind of benefit, right? You basically get 2 nukes out of him by doing that, right? Typically nuke style units, you only ever get the 1 hit. If you give him additionals, you've got 2 hits with a pretty decent chance of critting. Alright, so I would definitely recommend going combo attack. Since he doesn't need the critical hit, I recommend dumping the rest into evasion. Alright, just that little extra chance. It's not going to help him that much. In fact, it might actually hurt him. But with the number of attacks bosses do, realistically, with the minimum investment in them, you're not going to see more than this 15% anyways. Like 11, you're 20, you're going to get 11% dodge out of him realistically. So honestly, not that big of a deal. It's not that much, but he doesn't really need the critical hit, so you may as well take advantage of that. At least in my opinion, since he does build it up on his own. So guys, that is it for our video. That is my recommendation for the hidden potential for Fizz Goku Black's Super EZA additionals and dodge. I don't normally go dodge, but in this case, I mean, your critical hit is a non-issue for this character. He doesn't need it. So that is it for the video, guys. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And in the comments down below, let us know, what build would you go with Goku Black? Would you lean more into the additionals? Would you lean into critical hit? Would you go full dodge? Let us know in the comments down below. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and aloha.